Is the live stream working? I don't know. On the OBS end, it looks like yes. On the YouTube end, it very much looks like no. So that's a good start, eh? You know what? Got my phone here. Let's see if I can catch a glimpse of myself. Because otherwise, this is all for naught, as they say. Is it possible to look at me? I've done this before, but I need to figure out how. Because something doesn't look right. Riveting start, I can assure you. Because according to the YouTube little widget live streaming thing, I don't even have my lab coat on. It was me wearing what I was wearing when I was setting up. I mean, we're supposed to be ranking lab equipment today, and yet somehow I am ranking my ability to set up a live stream. Well, it says live there, so I'm going to turn the volume down. Oh, okay. Well, according to my phone and OBS, things are good. According to YouTube, as I said things very bad. But I will hope that that's okay. I wonder if the chat I'm going to put a message in my own chat and see if it's working. Live stream time. Yay lab equipment. That seems a reasonable thing a science fan would comment. Does that come up on there? Yes, it does. Okay, so it's just the video out part of the live stream on the YouTube thing is most definitely not working, but everything else is all above board. The green sound thing is going up and down. The chat is working. I can look at my phone and see a live stream on it with my face. So that's good. I've got my water here. I've got this tier list here, one I found on tiermaker.com, but I've made some modifications to it to improve the tier list, include more lab equipment. Because I thought we haven't had a science live stream in a while. We had one, which was ranking the organelles of the cell. How do you know the chat's working if no one commented yet? Well, I commented, so that's how I know it's working. I spoke to myself through the power of the internet and saw my own response. That's true as to whether I don't know if I can just see my own responses because I'm me, but I see yours now, so therefore it has to be working. 100% success, he says, with absolutely no idea why in the little YouTube thing I've got my blue blazer on, and yet I mean my blue blazer is on underneath this, but it's most definitely not on out to the wider environment. But it's not on my phone either. So everything's good, I think. I'll just stop prattling on about what I can see on the YouTube streaming thing, which does happen to also say error on it. So that's also bad. But I'll just ignore it and hope for the best. Anyway, supposed to be ranking lab equipment, as I was saying. Did one science-based live stream looking at the organelles of the cell, because that's what everybody wants to watch on a Friday night when they go on YouTube. You want to see the blue blazer. Is this? I think that's more of an OnlyFans thing. If I start taking clothes off, I think that's something YouTube would highly frown upon. But I suppose I'm a multi-layered individual, like an onion. Is this what people do on Only? Look at that! Ooh, look at this blue blazer everywhere. You know, give the audience what they want, huh? Blue, navy blue. Add layers, please. Lab coat going back on. You asked for it, so you cannot. This is your doing. You just bear that in mind. Sometimes things are better in one's mind than they are in real life, and me with more clothes on is clearly something better in in the in the public eye. Don't hold you accountable for the things you say. So this is the public forum. The public holds you responsible, and I am the public. So I will move that out of the way so I can see the lab equipment, which is here. So yeah. Anyway, we did the organelles. We ranked the organelles. Mitochondria was an S tier organelle, as one might expect. And then I thought, well, what else can go on a tier list? Lab equipment is what I happened to stumble across on tiermaker.com. Now, I couldn't remember how to make the tier list be full screen, so this is what you get to see. But luckily, it all fits in one window. These are the things down here, which does not include the things that I added, I have just realized. So that's not good, is it? Why is it all going wrong? Let's see, if I go here and go to the images, can I add multiple things at once? Because I have things to say about these bits of lab equipment. There we go. Now they're back. Now if I go to presentation mode, they disappear. That's alarming. Let's go back to normal view, and they are gone again. Right. We're learning as we go about tiermaker.com. I will add the bits of lab equipment here and not go into presentation view, and we will just look at it here. Everything is fine now. Anyway, so we're going to be ranking lab equipment because, hey, if people will watch a live stream about organelles, they'll watch something about lab equipment, he says. I've got my water here to keep me hydrated during this intense scientific evening I have set myself in for. We have 6 categories for said lab equipment, ranking from hell yeah, top quality, best piece of lab equipment. Now, what defines best lab equipment? I'm undetermined yet. Vibes, lab equipment vibes. Practicality is probably an important factor, but how difficult they are to use is I suppose that comes under practicality. That's important. How often they're used. Sometimes there are cool bits of equipment, but you rarely use them. You just see them and think, oh, that's cool. But then you actually get to use it. It's actually quite annoying. We have at the bottom, smash it to pieces. Now, I don't think, well, I know that there is one bit of lab equipment which will go in this category because I added it primarily to add it to said category. But I have a feeling that most things will end up in the fine or whatever section, because that's also how normal distribution works when it comes to data. So let's, I don't know, get into it, and we can also talk about our lives and our trouble and strife as we do so, both science related and otherwise, if people so choose. I'm not going to force people to talk about their lives, but I will talk about mine because it's my live stream. Do what I want. Just like that song, that old song, "It's My Party and I'll Cry If I Want to." But I don't imagine there'll be any tears this Friday evening, 7th of November. But anyway, let's at least rank one piece of lab equipment before we get off track, and that's the Pipette Boy, or an automated pipette. Is that what they're called? A stripette holder. Why green bad, red good? I don't know. I didn't make this tier list. I just added some pictures to it. Maybe because red hot, that's a good thing, right? When things are red hot, they are sick, lit, as they say. Lit, things are lit on fire. I presume that's where lit comes from. And fire is a reddish colour, an orange, a yellow to red colour, whereas fire is not green. And to be honest, it's not something I noticed until you have brought it up, Rachel. You can get on. I don't know if it says who made this. Well, there you go. Look, you can follow the creator of this lab equipment tier list and get on them. Unfortunately, you have to go on X to do that, which means downloading Elon's app, which probably not a good idea these days. But if you should so choose, you can hunt down this individual and ask them why green equals bad and red means good. But I'm going with red hot, good, green not. Huh? I think that can catch on. Anyway, the Pipette Boy. Automated pipette, I think it might be. And there is a tinny noise. I don't know how to fix that, but I will see what I can do, and I'll put that there in the meantime, whilst I pratter on about Pipette Boy. Oh, hello, Spectre. Are you okay? Do you have an opinion on the Pipette Boy? Oh goodness, Spectre. Yes, I also think it's a microphone thing. I think it might be because I have it running through a adapter that is really on its last legs. If I shift it, my whole screen goes off. Let's see what I can do here in the filters section that says that. What does that mean? Spectre, entertain the crowd. You're on this side. What on earth are you doing? Why are you down there? Well, Spectre, no, you don't have to leave. You might have an opinion on scientific equipment. Whilst I try and sort this out. Advanced audio properties. That's the section that seems like it might be good. God, I have no idea what any of these numbers mean. Status active. Well, that's a good sign. Audio monitoring. What does that mean? Monitor what? What audio is it monitoring? Monitor and output? Monitor only? Goodness. Technology. I can move a small volume of liquid very accurately between different things, but when it comes to this, I have utterly meaningless jargon. Is that what they say? Filters. That seems like the right one. That says good quality there. Oh, there's a plus. Compressor, expander, gain, invert polarity. What on earth does that mean? God. This makes science seem very easy. And I'm sure this is riveting viewing, as you can't even see me click around OBS. Noise gate. Is that what I want? Attack time? Does that mean attack time? This is all old time, release time. You know, sometimes they just say stick with what you know. Perhaps I'm just too close. Well, it's more comfortable to sit back like this, but I presume that's actually worse. If anything, I imagine I'm just very quiet now. But look, this is just like doing science. It's troubleshooting on the go. What if that make it better? Or less tin but not gone? Is that because I play, or is that because I dragged this open threshold bar? Threshold of what? I presume gate, whatever that means. Like the is that better or dragged another thing? Now are merely or think that's bad. Maybe, here's the other thing. Maybe it's been tinny this whole time, and because it was not a live stream in silence, um, like this one is, it was never noticeable. Sound of capturing Pokemon made it better. Wow, this is whoa, racking up the views, I'm sure. Watching me, not even watching me click around OBS, but just a screen that says fine with a Pipette Boy written on it. Perhaps that's it. Google mostly tells you to check your kit. Well, I don't know anything about that either. So I will just leave it as it is. And next time, play some royalty-free music in the background. Oh, hang on, wait a minute. Maybe I can play royalty-free music over this side. On this thing here, if I just put royalty-free music. That is long. Because clearly, you know, we've been doing long music. But how long? That's only 4 minutes. That's not that long. I need like hours. 12 hours free background music. Well, there you go. Let's go with that. If I move that down there. Well, first thing to check isn't Swan Lake royalty free now? Is it? Well, first off, is this 12 hours of free backing music even audible? Well, I think that the screen capture sound thing is going up and down, so I'm going to presume yes. Barely, and it's not drowning the tin. What about now? Also, it's possible that you might have tinnitus, and therefore you're actually just hearing sound in your own mind. But that's unlikely. Thing is, I didn't do anything differently this time either. I mean, you know, what can I say? Cause tinnitus. Well, I will leave this 12 hours of free backing music there. Something to... It's quite good. This is from The Relaxed Movement on YouTube, if you're wondering. 12 hours of free background music. He writes and I say he, that's very sexist of me. They write and produce all the beats myself and make them as relaxing as possible to chill out to. So there you go. Well, we have some backing music and we should probably talk about science and just, I don't know. I will, next time I come up with a live stream, I would endeavour to figure out. Oh, that doesn't mean copyright free, but it says here copyright free music for creators and streamers. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the copyright free music. If you did, make sure to check out some of my other tracks. All music on this channel is copyright free and is able to be used on your videos and streams. And I trust The Relaxed Movement implicitly that they will not come after me. I think it is a he because there's a Henry Kate down there. He is the relaxed movement. So, we'll see. Well, copyright is an automatic right when something is created, and I don't know. What don't you know? I thought you wanted to be a family lawyer or something, not a copyright lawyer. I'm just going to hope for the best. Maybe it's best if no one ever sees this live stream, because clearly it's not going too well. But we'll talk about the Pipette Boy. We're just going to plow on and talk about the Pipette Boy. And you can either deal with the tinny sound or 50 years. Oh, that's why, isn't Mickey Mouse copyright free or something now? That's why, well, Winnie the Pooh, I know that's one of them, because that's why they're making that god-awful, those Blood and Honey films, which I've seen one of, and I don't plan on seeing the rest. Because anyone can use Winnie the Pooh now, and do with it what they will. Anyway, the Pipette Boy. They're not all called Pipette Boys. I think some are just called like automated pipettes, although that there is an automated pipette. But anyway, I think Pipette Boys are like champagne in that only ones made by one particular company are actually called Pipette Boys and all the rest are called something else. But basically, you stick a bit of plastic in it that's like a long tube with, and you can just use the buttons to suck things up and down. Now, depending on what you do, you might not ever use it. If you're a physicist, you might never use one of these. But as a cell culture chap, use one multiple times a day to transport my media from one bottle onto my cells, or to move it from, well, look at you, revision. Oh yes, you have your big medical exam. That's right. Is it Saturday? It must be park run, or is that on Sundays? But go be healthy and enjoy revision and sleeping. And I appreciate you stopping by. And if you have any opinions on pipettes, feel free to leave them. But Pipette Boy, I'm just calling it Pipette Boy. I think they're neat. They're not cool. I'm not going to start straight out the gate and put something in the hell yeah red hot category, because that just seems 21 kilometers. I don't think I've ran that far in all of my years combined, and I hope to never have run that far by the time I reach my deathbed. 20 kilometers or less is I want my goal to be. Pipette Boy. It's for moving media or liquids, just moving liquids around. It's a bit like a pipette. We'll get to pipettes later because there are 2 types of pipettes on here. 3 types of pipettes, I suppose, if you count those. But they're rechargeable nowadays. Used to come with batteries. He's not watching it, I hope. But one of the PhD students in our group thought he had broken one when actually all he had to do was plug it back in and charge it. So not that hard to use. Suck things up and down. Don't you have to be careful though, because stripettes, which are like the plastic sticks that you stick inside it for moving the liquid around, they've got a bit of cotton wool at the end to try and stop you sucking up your liquid all the way into the machine. But if you keep pressing the suck button, all your media is going to end up inside there, and then it will break and it will not recharge. Or if you plug them into the wrong plug, I found out during my PhD after I came back from my time off, my Pipette Boy was very much out of battery, having not been used for almost 12 months. And so I thought I'd found the appropriate charger and plugged it in, and then plugged it into the wall. Then it turned out it was a laptop charger, and it made this awful noise, and it never worked again. So I had to get a new one. So don't plug your Pipette Boys into laptop chargers. Find the appropriate charger, even if it looks like they have the same port. And plug them in appropriately. Don't press the suck button too much, because you'll ruin it, you'll break it. But otherwise, have fun. Have fun with it. You could move water around with it. You could move cell culture media, dangerous chemicals, whatever you need. Whatever, if you were a baker, I hate baking and cooking in general, but if you were really needed to accurately measure, what do you put in baked goods? Milk. You need to accurately measure up to 50 ml of milk. You could do so with a Pipette Boy. Now that's quite an expensive endeavour to buy when you could just get a jug. Do you need a pipette for baking? No, you don't. But do you want a pipette for baking? That's a more important question. You know, I've got my pipettes from my PhD right here. Let me reach over and try and knock everything down. But these are my pipettes that I used in my PhD, all 6 years of it. You've got, you know, there's no Pipette Boy here because I have no need for one of those. But look, you could, if you wanted, you could do accurate baking with these from 1 milliliter all the way down to, what's the smallest one here? One of these, 0.1 microliters. So if you needed to pipette 0.1 microliters of milk or water or egg white or some other liquid that people use in baking, then there you go. You could do that. I don't think they would allow me to run with a pipette in any marathon. Well, I disagree. You could have like a utility belt. You know, you could have a utility belt with these around your waist, like all belts, and then you're like, oh, I need a pick me up of what do runners drink? Red Bull. I don't know, high sugar beverage. So then you take your 1 ml pipette as you're running, you suck up your 1 ml, and then you just squirt it in your mouth, and you know exactly how much liquid you've consumed. 1 ml, or whatever you've got it set to. This one is actually on 500 microliters, so that's half a mil. If you're up to your, you know. Also, this is a live stream about ranking science equipment. What were you expecting? You know, I've got 3 microscopes over here, and there's a microscope slide with a dead moth on it that I glued to the microscope slide. I've got a freeze box for putting small aliquots of things in the -80 freezer, which of course I don't have at home. I've got my picture of me. It's basically a shrine to myself that I've got over here. There's a picture of me from my master's degree. There's my 2 degrees here. It's my PhD graduation soon, where I'm going to get another one of these awful photos and another certificate. And that needs to go on my little shrine here as well. I would move my laptop and show you, but I'd worry that everything seems to be hanging on by a thread as it is, and so I will not do that. And now I need to carefully put these pipettes back without knocking down the big microscope that is balanced on my personal shrine. There's also some conical flasks here, and we'll talk about conical flasks momentarily because they are on this equipment ranking thing. You know what, pipettes, you're going to have to go here behind me on the screen because I can't reach back over. See, look. Well, maybe you could get that energy if you were pipetting 1 ml of runner's fluid. Runner's fluid, good God. Whatever runners drink. Water. I know they give out water in marathons, but they must give out Kendall mint cake. That's good for people with energy, right? It's got a lot of sugar in it. Do runners eat Kendall mint cake whilst running? Don't know. My PI's wife is was a semi-professional runner. They have beer. Well, there you go. You don't want to get, you know, drunk whilst doing your Christmas run. So you could drink your beer 1 ml at a time using a pipette. All you need is a pipette and a box of pipette tips. Although if you're, I'm saying you should. you know, you if you're worried that maybe 1 ml of beer is too much, you could even take this 200 microliter pipette. You know, that's a fifth of a mil every time. Just a little squirt. And also 200 microliter pipette tips are smaller, so you could fit more in your pocket whilst running along. Now, I don't have a 5 milliliter pipette because I never had need of one in my PhD, but you could also get those. Now, they're a lot bigger, so you'd need, you know, more of a sword sheath or something you'd put like a dagger in to keep hold of it. And the pipette tips are obviously very long because they hold 5 mils. But if you wanted to drink your Christmas beer 5 milliliters at a time, instead of using one of these 5 times, you could just get, you know, one big 5 ml pipette. Now, if I haven't sold you on pipettes enough yet, I can tell you that you can buy them on Amazon for some. So, yeah, I've started to ride a bike, so I may not run, but I use my legs for some degree of self-propelled movement beyond walking. So, and it's hard to ride a bike and pipette, so I say we'll give it a trial. 34 kilometres is a long distance trial for pipette. So how about you go to these park runs, they're every Saturday, speak to your park runners, the fellow runners, and ask them would they take a pipette on a run to microdose runner's fluid, whether that be beer, water, dissolved Kendall mint cake, Red Bull, God knows what else. You know, you could take that and ask them and see what they would do, and then you can get yourself a thing of pipettes. Now, pipettes like this, a whole set, quite expensive, having just ordered some for our burgeoning lab group at the University of St Andrews. £906 for a set of 4 pipettes, but you don't have to. They don't sell the nice ones on Amazon, so you can get really cheap ones, and you'll be all right. You know, they all function the same. And I don't think if you were running, you don't want an expensive pipette whilst you're running. You might drop it. Sweaty hands are going to affect your pipetting. And I'm happy to provide pipetting use classes if you've never used a pipette before. We aren't even on pipettes. Do you know what? I'm going to skip to the manual pipette here and put it right up to the top in the Hell Yeah section. We've talked about using pipettes in a marathon. You know, so if you've never used a pipette before, welcome to Pipetting 101. You twist the little knob and the number changes. So this one's set to 500 microliters, but you can twist it. This one goes all the way up to 1 mil. You twist it. So it's like, oh, well, now it's on 780 microliters. Then push it down to the first bit of resistance. That's how you know you've hit 780 microliters. You bring it back up, fill up your thing, and then, but then if you want to release your 780 microliters, you've got to push it down all the way. Accurate pipetting. Don't push it down all the way and then bring it back up for your solutions, because the volume will be wrong. And that's bad science, bad practice. Yeah, so the University of St Andrews School of Medicine, it's not like Aberdeen where there's like med school and science school separate. It's all one thing. So in January we're actually having some med school pre-doctors, doctor trainees come into the lab and do some pipetting and other bits and bobs. So they too will learn how to use pipettes with such expert tutelage from me. Whilst we're on pipettes, this is an electronic pipette, and I think that kind of sucks. That takes the fun out of pipetting. If you just set this thing to do the volumes for you, what are you doing? I'm not going to say smash it to pieces, because it do, you know, if you're pipetting 300 wells or something, you're going to get repetitive strain injury on your finger for all that pipetting. But I don't think an electronic pipette is necessary for most practical things. You know, it's a special occasion kind of pipette, but it kind of sucks. You got to charge it up or put batteries in it. Don't have to put a battery in this. Powered by human ingenuity and the muscles you have in your finger. Now, admittedly, if you don't have any fingers, or although how you're holding a pipette, if your finger movement is limited, whether that be through too much manual pipetting, you've got RSI, or you've got not varicose veins, but that thing you get when you have bad nerves, that whatever. If you have that thing, it's going to be difficult to use a manual pipette, of course. And in fact, a lot of scientists, towards the end of their career, use the wrist support glove things that go around their fingers to provide some support, so they can keep using the manual pipettes. That's the thing. Clearly, electronic pipettes are so rubbish that, hey, I worked in occupational health for a bit, so why not? They wear the glove thing so they can keep using this RSI, repetitive strain injury. Yeah, so they wear the gloves so they can keep using manual pipettes. They could just get themselves an electronic pipette and take all the stress out of pushing the little plunger thing up and down. But they're not doing that, are they? Because they love the feel of using a pipette. But I won't say smash it in the bin, because there are some people that obviously can't use a manual pipette, or if you're just pipetting loads, you don't want to use a manual pipette. Then you can also get a multi-channel if you're doing lots of pipetting. In fact, there's a multi-channel pipette right here. This is just like, you can get electric ones. You can see in the picture, actually, it is an electric one. And, you can get manual ones. We have manual ones already. If anything, I'd say 3 scoffs is not as bad as I was expecting in the however long it's been. It says 12 minutes and 37 seconds there, but that number's not going up, so I don't think that's right. However long it's been, at the very least 12 minutes and 37 seconds. That's 3 scoffs. That's basically a scoff every 4 minutes, if that number is accurate. In fact, that number has just gone down. But a multi-channel pipette, you get ones like this, you get ones like that, and oh right, so there could have been many more before the bike thing. Well, give that an error bar of plus or minus 2 scoffs at the end. If you had, a line of wells that are all the same, or even not all the same, but they're good for serial dilutions, is a multi-channel. So I think they're kind of neat. They save you time on pipetting identical things quickly. Why pipette the same thing 12 times when you could do the action of pipetting 1 times? Good Lord. My English ability is going, even if my scientific ability is flowing. Look at that rhyme. Good Lord. I think I need someone to control what I say. You can pipette the same thing multiple times out of a reservoir of different wells on a plate. You don't need to put a pipette tip on all of the different ends. You get multi-channels that are of different lengths. You get long ones that are 12 pipette tips long or more, or you get very small ones that are like 6 if you only need to do 6 repeats of the same thing. But then you can just repeat it all at once. Is my logic there flawed? No, pipetting the same thing multiple times, very boring, back to back. That's why I said that might be a reason why someone might choose to use an electronic pipette. But you could just use a multi-channel, maybe. Well, because with a multi-channel, you still get the feel of pipetting. And that's what as a wet lab scientist, that really gets me going. Pushing this plunger thing up and down to make volumes of liquid come out. That's my thrill every single day. But using an electric pipette, you just set it, and then usually you just press it. Basically, it's just a button on the top that you press, and then the volumes come out. Where's the fun in that? And then you're also not getting a thumb workout. Now, ultimately, this does lead to RSI and the downfall of your functioning hand. But no pain, no gain. That's what I'm saying. If you're not that dedicated to science that you're willing to risk your life, then are you really that into science? Yeah. Give that something to think about if you're watching this and you've made it in this far. Now, I have no idea what this number means, because now it says 13 minutes and 20 seconds, which is clearly not true, because it said 30 minutes earlier. Oh, up here, 40 minutes. We've been streaming for 40 minutes. Most of that was trying to figure out how to fix OBS, which I clearly failed at. And now we've only made it 4 lab items in. So that's basically an average of 1 lab item every 10 minutes. Which is arguably better than the rate of scoffs that you are doing, Rachel. So I'd say that as a winner. I do many things for science. Your idea of science and mine differ. Well, what is your idea? Tell me, what are the things you do for science? And I will compare that to the things I do for science. And we will see who's the real. I've got a lab coat on. I say that basically makes me a real scientist. And speaking of lab coats, they're down here on this thing. Now, depending on what you do, you might have all sorts of lab coats. I have 2 white ones, not in counting this one which is at home. I have 2 white lab coats at work, one for cell culture stuff, so that try and keep that as sterile as possible to not contaminate my cells, and then one for outside of cell culture, for doing chemicals and things on the bench, agar plates, bacterial stuff. You don't want to mix and match. You don't want to get your lab coat covered in bacteria and then go to cell culture. But then if you're also getting your lab coat covered in bacteria, you are not doing very well. So yeah, in the US, I think, at least from the few US medical dramas that I've watched, they wear lab coats in hospitals, don't they? Parading about. It does give an aura of power. You're right. Why do you think I don't need to wear my lab coat. This is my lab coat from my undergraduate, which clearly still fits because I don't grow. And you wear it in Spain. See, we just need to catch up with the times. Lab coats, powerful items. And from the doctors I've met that do wear lab coats, don't they get them embroidered with like hospital embroidery of some description? You know, I don't get my lab coat embroidered, but that's because they get sterilised and cleaned, and then we don't get the same lab coats back. So I wouldn't want to go to all the trouble of getting my lab coat embroidered and then not get my lab coat back. That'd be very sad. You know, I don't know who is doing the lab coat cleaning. I've never followed my lab coat to its very end, but I just know I don't get the same one back because I wrote the key code number for the key box on the sleeve of my lab coat, and then you can't have anything below the elbows. What, in case it falls into a wound? So you can't wear a jumper or a shirt. Does it also depend on what kind of doctor you are? Because I mean, my oncology consultant, he wears a shirt, but he's also not sticking his hands anywhere. He touches my stomach every once in a while. Maybe he does roll up his sleeves every time. Alan McDonald, if you're out there and you're watching this, do you roll up your sleeves when you observe me? Seeing as you and Iris work in the same place, I would presume you do, but I've never noticed. Well, that's it. Next time I have my oncology appointment, I'll be watching Alan like a hawk. Is he going to roll up his sleeves? Then if he doesn't, I'm going to call the nice. Otherwise, imagine having to wash your hands all the time with long sleeves. Oh, yeah. But then, so you're saying that in Spain, where you had your lab coat on, people dying all the time of infection because you got these long sleeves. Or did your lab coat have short sleeves? Anyway, lab coat is going in the hell yeah section. As I say, it gives us a sense of power, makes me feel like a real scientist. And even if in Spain the bugs don't go into the lab coat, of course, they're too busy having their siesta in the middle of the day. Because nothing like a bit of xenophobic jokes there. Yeah. Interesting. That is very interesting, actually. Didn't think about that. I think doctors should wear You're not allowed fans or ice machines. Well, that's true. You both work in the NHS Grampian. This is like NHS Grampian fan club day to day. The chat today. So, you know, you can talk about what it's like working at NHS Grampian. You can't have fans. Why not? What's wrong with a fan? Surely, if there's a pathogen in the air, having a fan is just going to blow the air around. It's not introducing new pathogens, is it? You can't have fans, but you know a lot of wards that use them. Right, so there's a rebellious wards out there. Wow. Pretty sure there was fans when I was in oncology, because that was the summer that was super hot. You're pushing around the bugs, I guess. I mean, I would guess that too, but you know, they're in the air anyway. Okay, well, single rooms, that's oncology. So, well, they do have multiple occupancy rooms in oncology, but I was never really in those, just for a shorter period. Spent most of my time. What about personal fans? You know, like this sort. Is that allowed? Is that allowed? Can you give out, you know, if a Japanese geisha comes in with her big fan, does it get confiscated, or is it all right if you are in control of the fan and therefore know that you're blowing bacterial pathogens or viruses into your face? Well, yeah, exactly. He came in completely sterile, waved this fan around, and now he's got COVID. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe that's how I got COVID in hospital. Maybe I was too busy waving my hands around, and that's how I ended up. Okay, that's fair. Although I never got my laptop pat tested, and I also brought my PS5 to oncology once. I just plugged it into the plug behind the bed. I guess they were like, oncology is sad enough. We don't need to take your PS5 away from you. Because by that point, I'd finished Hell's Kitchen, so there was no more Hell's Kitchen to watch. So what else was I going to do? You know, I hadn't played video games for ages because I was too busy being miserable in the oncology ward. Damn, maybe I was just there in the rogue times. You know, or I was such a fun guy that they were like, do what you want. No, it was after COVID. I mean, COVID was still around. It was 2022 that I found myself living in the oncology ward. So a couple of years after the big pandemic time. Who knows? Maybe they just looked at me and were like, "You're such a fun guy. Have your PS5. Doesn't matter if it causes a fire or electrocutes people. I lived." Who knows? But people still get. But surely is the COVID ward still a thing? You know, it's. I presume people still get it. So not enough people get it. Now they just got to go to respiratory if they get COVID, or they just get sent home. Well, I suppose it depends on how bad their COVID is. But things that a doctor may wear, that a scientist also wears, that is you go to a single room with precautions. See, I'm learning so much about NHS Grampian, and yet I thought I was the one supposed to be doing educate. Gloves are suck but necessary. They are probably the definition of something that sucks but is necessary. Hey, I'm going to do both. I'm learning about NHS Grampian. I love learning, so that's good for me. And talk about gloves. They're usually latex gloves. Some people have a latex allergy, so they get different gloves, which are not made out of latex. I don't know what they're made from. But then I don't know why You just don't make all the gloves out of the thing that's not latex, and then anyone can wear them and it doesn't matter. Also come in many, many colours. These gloves are blue. In my PhD, we had purple gloves for a bit. Well, that's good. Anyone can, because patients could also be allergic. That's true. Didn't even think of that. Someone's having a coronary event. Nitrile. Of course, they're nitrile gloves. I should know that. I think it probably says that on the box of most of the gloves that I have. Maybe our gloves aren't even latex gloves anymore. See? Well, anyway, gloves. This conversation in the chat here is the definition of gloves suck but are necessary. You don't want to go touching people with your bare hands. That's rubbish. And I don't want to be touching my cell lines or dangerous chemicals with my bare hands, or my bacteria especially. But you have to. Then they make your hand all sweaty and grim. But they're good for writing on. That's one good thing about gloves, especially if you don't bring a notepad with you and you're doing some mathematical calculations. You just knock it on the back of the glove and then look at it and go, oh, I need to add 20 microliters into this Cellcopter solution to add my streptomycin antibiotic or something, and then then you get win-win. We had black gloves in my PhD at one point because there was a drought of gloves from wherever we got our normal gloves from, and they were terrible because you couldn't write on them. I mean, you could write on them, but with a black pen you can't see it, and most lab markers are of course black. So, and even a red pen or a green pen, unless you had a white, one of those fancy white like Tipex-y style pens, you weren't going to see on this black glove. Very bad, useless, but better than no glove, I suppose. So, sucks but necessary, the definition of a glove. What else? But another thing that are safety glasses. Now, I haven't worn safety glasses for a fair while, mostly because as a glasses wearer, they tend to go, well, if something's going to splash you in the face, it'll hit you in the glasses anyway. There are certain things you need to wear safety glasses for. Things involving UV often come with special orange safety glasses, so you don't get a laser in the face. See, I trust my prescription glasses too. I've never got anything in my eye, and I've been doing science for a long time. Either that means I'm just very good at doing science, which is unlikely, or my glasses are protecting me. Thank you, glasses, for providing me with eyesight and eye protection all in one. So I wouldn't even say, safety glasses suck but are necessary, because often they aren't that necessary. However, they also come in many styles. Like there are ones like this, which are safety glasses. But then you also get like the safety goggles that make you look like a minion from the Minions films, and Despicable Me, I suppose, the original franchise. And they really suck. Just a big elastic band with a rubbery fat thing on your face. You breathe and they all fog up and you can't see, and you're trying to do some pipetting. So actually, you know what? Safety glasses, you're going down there, with the caveat that they also are sometimes necessary. So if there was an intermediate category here, I would add that. I don't know how you can add can you add, is that what this is for? Oh, I can add a row below, and I'll give it this colour here. There we go. I'll put that, and I'll call it mostly useless, but sometimes necessary. Now, this is also coming from the point of view of a cell biologist who is also a glasses wearer. If you were a chemist, I imagine wearing safety goggles is actually... Oh no, I've changed the colour of this one. Oh dear. Oh, who cares? There are more important things to talk about. So the safety goggles is mostly useless, but sometimes necessary, unless you're a chemist or working with lasers, or don't wear glasses normally. Then safety glasses or safety goggles are very important. You had to wear safety goggles during COVID due to the lack of visors. They were green, or like the actual glasses part were green. Surely that did not help one's vision when trying to treat people. Also, if you're red-green colorblind and you're looking through green glasses, how does that affect you? You know, that's not a question I thought I'd ever ask. Do you just see grey? If your whole vision is green because of these green goggles, what do you see? Don't know. If you know someone that's red-green colorblind, buy them some green goggles and ask them what they see, and then feed it back to me, because I'm actually genuinely interested. This YouTube channel does have an Instagram page which you could follow. In fact, I should probably post that there was a live stream on said Instagram page, and oh, did you not pull off the projected film? Well, that would be an insight into how NHS Grand Period is run. But I'd like to think they were all green. Just for maybe COVID was easier to spot in green light. Maybe I didn't read that paper. Now this is a petri dish. I think it looks like a petri dish from the picture, but it could also be a cell culture 10cm flask, which is basically a petri dish, but often they're coated with material that can help cells adhere to them. So for me, they are very, very important. I wouldn't say they're neat, they're just a plastic disc that you put stuff in, whether that be agar or cells, or I often also put cover slips, microscopy cover slips inside petri dishes because it's easier to pick them up than trying to take them out of a bottle after they've been autoclaved. So they're fine. A petri dish, a 10cm tissue culture plate, it's a fine bit of lab equipment, but it's nothing overly special. Now, I know there are those people that work in the NHS that also wear green. I never really figured out what the class system is. Like, doctors wear their own clothes unless they're doing surgery stuff, right? Then they wear the blue gowns. The healthcare workers wear like a light blue, and the nurses wear a darker blue. Some people wear purple, but then there are also the people that wear green. What do they do? Did the people that wear green also wear green goggles? Like the Grinch of hospital? Maybe I'm imagining things. I mean, most of the time I was in hospital, I was off my face on cytotoxic chemicals. So maybe people don't wear purple, and I was just having some sort of, I don't know, reaction. I did a practical today at the School of Medicine where we had to the Green Goblin of Medicine. What a thought. Now, I'm glad I added this mostly useless but sometimes necessary category, because that's a funnel. I don't think I've ever used a funnel ever for something that a funnel would be used for in my time as a cell biologist. That's the important thing here. Again, if I was a chemist or someone that mixed things, what I used to use a funnel for a lot in my PhD was there were these little glass beads that we had to use for spreading bacteria on agar plates after an infection. You would sort of like pour the glass beads onto your agar, put the bacteria on it, and then shake it around like a what are those instruments called? Maraca? Castanet? A shaker thing? Those. You'd shake it around and the bacterial covered cell lysate would get all over the beads, and the beads would roll around, and that would spread it all over your agar plate. And you obviously had to clean these beads. You'd wash them, and then they would have to be autoclaved, basically fried, so they were completely sterile. But then you'd have to get the clean beads and put them in something for long-term storage. And that's what I used to use a funnel for. You'd pour the thing of clean beads into smaller bottles, and it was a real pain to just try and pour them in from bottle to bottle. So I'd just get a big funnel, pour the beads in a funnel, beads would go into smaller bottle. But in terms of mixing a chemical or something together, I don't think I've ever used a funnel for that. Maybe water at some point, adding water to something that's got a small entryway, but no, couldn't even tell you. I've been at the University of St Andrews since August, and I couldn't even tell you where the funnels are kept, if our lab group even has any funnels, which suggests I don't think we do, which suggests that they're not very important for cell biology, and therefore are mostly useless, but sometimes necessary for moving stuff around. What we do use a lot though, beakers. But I think a beaker is a whatever bit of equipment. You know, it gets around. You can put stuff in beaker. You put waste in beaker. We often put beakers in the tissue culture hoods. £1 says you'll need one on Monday. Well, if I do need a beaker on Monday, I will leave a comment underneath this live stream saying I used a funnel. But I highly doubt it. I have no reason to think from the experiments I have planned on Monday that I will have need of a funnel. But hey, it's a wild world out there, and maybe you're right and I'm wrong. But what I will use on Monday is a beaker, but I won't be putting any liquid in it. I'll be putting... Oh, so not... Maybe you'll need one on Monday. You'll need one on Monday. A Monday. If you'd actually written your sentence better, Rachel, maybe I could understand better. I'm sorry. Please write your sentences however you wish. Yeah, maybe I'll keep track. Every Monday I will see if I need to use a funnel, and that eventual Monday that I do, I will comment under this live stream and say I used a funnel with the date that the said funnel was used and for the reason why I used it. But don't keep your hopes up, because I don't think I'll be using a funnel anytime soon. But maybe by retirement I will have used a funnel, and hopefully this YouTube channel will still exist. Okay, fine. Yeah, I'm not the boss of you. I'm just here doing this, putting pictures of lab equipment on a tier list on the internet. Beaker. Anyway, I won't be putting any liquid in the beaker on Monday. I'll be using the beaker as a container for waste pipette tips. I'm going to be doing a bit of genetic manipulation, hopefully, next week, and that's going to come with a lot of waste pipette tips. Enjoy your reading, Iris. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for teaching me about the highs and lows of NHS Grampian. And who knows, maybe one day you'll cross paths in real life. In fact, before you go, you've actually been in the same place. Remember when I did that live thing at the Blue Lamp? You were both there. You have been in this. You've breathed the same air as me, all at the same time. So you have seen each other before, at the very least. So there you go. Look at me, bringing people together. So we've done beakers. What else we got down here? Oh, this is beaker related. It's a stirrer. It's an electric stirrer. This one, look, it's got two knobs on it, which suggests it's also an electric heater. I love a bit of electric. I love an electric stirrer. I'm putting it in the hell yeah section, because you put these little magnet things. If you can see here, that's the little magnet thing, and this stirring platform has got a magnet in it, so the beady thing goes in there, sits at the bottom. You turn it on and it spins, and then if you can playing with the speed. That's why it gets to go in the hell yeah section. Because if you turn it up too fast, the thing will bang against the side of the beaker in this case, or whatever it is you're trying to mix. But if you do it just right, you get this little vortex, this liquid vortex in your solution. And I just love doing that. Stirring is different because you get no reward from using an automatic pipette, but the stirrer is providing you with that reward of getting the liquid tornado, the vortex in your solution. Just why do you think in this picture of the stirrer they included, the vortex there that you can see? That's how good it is. I could make a vortex myself, yes, that's true. But with an electric stirrer, that also means I can go and do something else. And just see my vortex in the distance. Just there, spinning, mixing my solution together, dissolving something in something else. You're not getting that with an electric pipette, because you still have to be there and do your electric pipetting. People love lava lamps, right? You seem like the sort of person that might endear themselves to a lava lamp, Rachel. An electric stirrer is just like a lava lamp. You could, if you wanted, make things go up and down by yourself. Get a balloon or something, lift it up, push it down. That's basically a lava lamp in air. But you don't want to do that. You could just get oil, mix it in some water. The oil will sink and then float to the top. Also a bit rubbish. But lava lamps, nice. Or like a Newton's cradle. Yeah, exactly. Yes, lava lamp is science, as is... Well, you could argue, if you're a physicist, a balloon is also science. It's showing, it depends what's in the balloon. If you've just got air, normal breath air in your balloon, obviously it's going to sink because the balloon itself is heavier than the air. But if you put something like helium in it that's lighter than air, it'll float up. That's science. That's a bit of chemistry and a bit of physics. So it's a game and it's science. That's the best thing, It's a bit of everything. Wonderful. Hey, I am going to keep my thoughts to myself as to what you're doing with your fingers. But I suppose you did specify that maybe you're just wiping a smudge off your screen because you've got something on it, and what is growing on your screen is of interest to a biologist. What I think you might be doing with your finger, though, however, I think would not be interesting to a biologist. I think it'd be more interested to a sociologist or someone who works on emotions or something like that. Hey, scratching your nose, depending on what's in your nostrils, that could be of interest to a biologist. The practical today, the one I talked about earlier, that involved getting a swab and putting it in your nostril and then streaking it out on an agar plate, and then the students will see next week whether they were carriers of Staphylococcus aureus in their noses, which is highly likely because many people are carriers of staph, and and it doesn't cause them any sickness. A psychologist, not a sociologist. Yes, you're right. What else we got? Now, that looks like a fume cupboard rather than a class 2 tissue culture cabinet. So unless we're reviewing the interaction of how people interact and use the internet, well, so that's what I was thinking. You are using the internet to see me, but through the internet we are also interacting, and what I am saying and doing is causing your response, which I think would be of an interest to a sociologist, and then your response is to do something with your finger, whether that be scratch your nose or gesticulate, which is what I imagine is possibly going on your end of the screen. This is a fume cupboard fume cupboards are fine. They're not as cool as tissue culture safety cabinets, which that does not look like it is from the picture. So it can go in the fine. It's just a thing. Keeps you safe. It's got air blowing in it. It makes a really annoying beeping when you turn it on and turn it off if the little window is not in the right place. But tissue culture cabinets do that too. But they get the added benefit of you can do tissue culture in them, which is my bread and butter. And I think that's very important. Duran bottles. You can tell it's a Duran bottle because it's got a blue lid. They're just glass bottles with some measurements on it. They're really thick. They're basically Pyrex bottles that you can put in the autoclave and keep things sterile. So they're just whatever. It's just a glass bottle. Put stuff in it. You can sterilize it. Everybody wins. Conical flask. Like most glassware, again, it's just whatever. I mean, it's a bit more. It's more of a funky shape than a Duran bottle. So you know what? Maybe I can put it in the fine section. It's good for swirling things. Is a conical flask. Good for chemists. Chemists use conical flasks a lot. Remember doing titrations in my A level. That always involved using a conical flask instead of a beaker. And you're twisting your Burex. It involved a lot of stirring, and it's a lot easier to get a good swirl with a conical flask. So I guess that can be promoted to the fine section. This is a oh god, what are these called? Graduated bottle or something like that. Oh, these are volumetric flasks, I think. Is that right? I'm going to put it in whatever whilst I limit my scientific credentials and Google volumetric flask and hope that a picture of this appears. Images. Yes, it is a volumetric flask. Lucky me. They are called volumetric flasks because somewhere along the neck, if you look very closely in this image, you can maybe just about see it there. They have a little line, and that line is a designated volume. This volumetric flask looks like it holds 250 ml. So if you fill it up to the line, you know you have 250 ml. If you've never moved water around or any sort of liquid, you'll know that the forces of water cause a dip, a meniscus in the layer, the top of the water. So you want your bottom of your meniscus to be on the line, and then that shows you have accurately 250 surface tension. See, I think we should swap places. You can tell. What's your favourite bit of lab equipment, Rachel? Tell me, and have we talked about it already? Is it down here, or is it something else? Maybe I can find a picture of it and put it here. The exit sign. Well, that's just unacceptable behaviour. I will not be having that here. Get back to law school. You go do the bar. Do we have the bar here in the UK? I know that's a US thing. Go do law and earn way more money than I ever will doing science. LLB, law, legislative law, baccalaureate. Is that what LLB stands for? Or is it something like L and then that's actually the pound symbol, like LB, as in pounds and ounces, which I highly doubt. Some cool things about volumetric flasks is they have nice caps. They're like little bung things. Some of them are twisty, some of them you just push in. Easily lost though. I think when I did, especially at school, many a lid of a volumetric flask was lost unto the ether of the world. I think most glassware is going in the whatever section because this is a measuring cylinder. It is exactly what it sounds like. Law degree accredited by the Law Society of Scotland, followed by a diploma and a 24-month traineeship. That's what LLB stands for. That's a very long acronym. Well, a very short acronym for a very long answer. What does the B stand for, at least? Bachelors. So is the B for bachelors? Law lovers. Bachelor's degree. Well, because BSc, right, BSc stands for Bachelors of Science. MSc, Masters of Science. So you could get a law degree that isn't accredited, so it wouldn't count. Right. Well, I'm going to now Google what LLB law degree stands for. It's got to stand for something. LLB law degree stands for Bachelor of Law. Damn. Well, now I feel like a bit of a fool. But what's the second L for? It is probably Latin. Maybe it's, I don't know, where did the first lawyers come from? Ancient Greece? Maybe? Did they have lawyers? Maybe it's Greek. Anyway, measuring cylinder. It's a tube with a stand. You put liquid in it, you measure it. Riveting. It doesn't suck because it's, useful. So it's very much whatever. Is it as cool as pipetting? No. Is it as cool as a volumetric flask? Absolutely not, because you can't get a good swirl on it. The only fun thing about measuring cylinders is you can get like really, really small ones. I mean, it's the same as volumetric flasks. I've got some over here, actually. Ooh. You can get really small volumetric flasks. This one holds 5 ml, plus or minus 0.025 ml to put in there. So that's 2 microliters. Hey, I love a lecture. So please, whenever is good for you is good for me. Anyway, you can get really small volumetric flasks. Here's the line. I'm not sure how good this is, but there you go. There it is, maybe. As you can see, I don't have any measuring cylinders. It's because it's just a glass tube with something. I've also got beakers over here, actually. I totally forgot I had a beaker. This is my 10ml beaker. When I had, fun fact about this beaker, it used to sit on my desk in the office in my PhD. And after chemotherapy, because I can't not talk about that for 5 minutes, after chemotherapy and surgery and all that, I hadn't used a pipette in a very long time, and my hands, like the rest of me, was very weak. So when I first went back to the lab, before I went back into the lab, I would practice my pipetting in this beaker. I would make myself a coffee. I got a clean, sterile pipette and a pipette tip, and then would move the coffee into the beaker and then move it around to get the strength in my hand back. So that's what this beaker was used for. And in fact, you can see that I think maybe I'd left some coffee in it over a weekend or something at some point, because it's got a bit of residue in the bottom. I'll put that over there with all of that. I'm just now I love a microscope, so that's going right up here to hell yeah. I will use microscopy for everything. As I say, I've got 3 microscopes here. I like my beaker too, thank you. I've got 3 microscopes here next to me. And then there's one underneath my bed in a case. The ones next to me are not electrically powered. They're the old, really old type where you have to reflect the light to see them. So I've got 2 very, very old microscopes. This one here, it's only got one type of magnification. You twist the light, you see it, light reflects up, you see something bigger. There's this one here. There is a slightly newer model of lab of microscope here. This is the first microscope I ever got for myself for my microscope collection. Again, you twist this, reflect light, so that this thing pops up here, so you can get that. And then what this one has, the brass one over there doesn't have, is that you can tilt it, so you can have it at an angle, make things easier to see. And it also has clips for your slides, whereas the other one does not. So that's that. There's a big microscope here, which I will not move, because it's very big. Maybe I will move it. Let's see. Let's see how movable it is. So let me put that back over there. In fact, if I move this microscope, it might make it easier for me to put my pipettes back. In fact, you can tell I love microscopy so much that this is one of the microscope slides I made at home. This was a moth that was Spectre, my cat. She saw Spectre earlier. She killed this moth but didn't then like destroy it completely. So I kept it and glued it to this microscope slide. There's a moth there, and the other one has got a bee on it as well. So I can look at the surface of a bee, the little bee hairs. I'm sure they have an official name, but the bee hairs and the bee wings and the bee face. I can look at all that under my many microscopes. Now, here we go. Here goes. I'm going to move the big microscope and see what happens. You know, I'm bending with my knees and not with my back. Or in this case, here it is. This is my first. So when they were doing a bit of a clear out at the school, at the IMS, the Institute of Medical Sciences at the University of Aberdeen, and they were throwing a lot of stuff away, like they were going to throw away this microscope. They were going to throw it away because it is broken. There should be a thing here to put samples on. At the moment, it's just a big hole. But again, it's the thing. You twist the thing, reflect the light. If I had a cell culture dish like that one there in the fine section, I could sit that in there. This is my. It's got, you know, it's a classic. It's got multiple zooms. You twist the dial. You get your different magnifications, and it's also very heavy. So that can go back over there. But before I break my elbow or something. So anyway, have many microscopes. I love microscopy. I think it's one of the best types of science you can do, whether that be electron microscopy, you know, looking at things super small, that's transmission electron microscopy, scanning electron microscopy to look at things in 3D, did both of those during my PhD, wonderful thing to do, or fluorescence microscopy, probably one of the things I am the best at in the lab, whether, you know, tagging things with fluorescent markers or expressing fluorescent markers in cells. It's the act of actually seeing things happening, whether that be live. You can do live fluorescence microscopy and watch the salmonella swim about and all that sort of fun stuff. I will try and fit microscopy into my experiments wherever possible. There was this protein assay I had to do in my PhD, and instead of doing a Western blot, which we will definitely talk about later because they're god awful, I instead measured the protein level by measuring the fluorescence of the protein. And it was wonderful. Wonderful. I love microscopy, and if I could sit and do it all day, every day, I absolutely would. It was the Scottish Microscopy Society Symposia this week, end of last week, within these past 7 days, and I couldn't go because I was busy doing other stuff, but hopefully I'll go next year, or some other microscopy thing, just to look at beautiful pictures made by microscope. I'm going to move the microscope to there, he says. There we go. Because I just love microscopy so much. Oh, it's wonderful. If you know any microscopists out there, feel free to cut this bit out and send it to them and let them know that they are loved by me. You know, I wouldn't consider myself anywhere near as good as a microscopist. They have exceptional skills at making these beautiful images. I think I'm just fine, but I thank them for teaching me to be as good at microscopy as I am, and please keep teaching me on all the types of microscopes so I can be the best microscope user I possibly can and make beautiful pictures, because I want to. It's just fun. One of the most fun things I think people get to do in the lab. Obviously that's not the same for everybody, but it is for me. But I'm glad you didn't scoff for the majority of that, my little personal diatribe on how good microscopes are. Another bit of glassware here. It's a round bottom flask. Not that useful really, because you can't sit it down. You got to clamp it to something to hold it up. I don't think I've ever used one in my entire life. That's definitely something more chemists use. So that can just go there in whatever. I'm sure it's very useful if you are a chemist. What else have we got down here? So we've got two types of weighing scales: a normal weighing scale and a weighing scale that's in a big box for. Hey, microscopists might feel underappreciated, and might want to know that they're loved. That's all I'm saying. I'm not doing it for my own personal gain. I'm not saying, oh, clip it out so get more views and that. I'm saying so microscopists can feel good about themselves. Often the staff that do the training and are not the actual scientists often get overlooked in places like the School of Medicine. It takes many cooks to do science, from the scientists, the academics, of course, to the people that run the facilities, the microscopists, the flow cytometrists, and then you've also got the people like the admin staff that have to corral all these scientists into getting them to do the paperwork stuff that they don't want to do, but they need to do because it's important. They're very important. They organise meetings and stuff that we all love to attend, but would never really get around to organising properly ourselves. Then there's the technical staff like the lab managers as well. Our lab manager at the University of St Andrews is wonderful, and the lab managers I've had in the past have all been wonderful, and good for them. It's a difficult job dealing with a bunch of big science babies like scientists are. Weighing scales. I'd say much like the volumetric flask and these bits of flask, where a normal weighing scales is whatever. People have weighing scales at home for measuring flour and going back to baking, other things that need weighing. People weigh themselves on weighing scales. Not one like this, of course, it'll break. But these ones are much cooler. They're in a little box, an enclosed box, to try and reduce movement and airflow and forces from around, so you can get really accurate measurements. If you're trying to measure the weight of something where you need 0.01 grams or something, you're not going to get the accuracy on something like that, but you will on something like this. So it's a fine bit of lab equipment, much like a volumetric flask is a fine bit of glassware. Oh no, here we go. What can you possibly say about weighing scales? I'm gonna excuse you. I'm gonna sit here and wait until whatever you have to say about weighing scales is out there in the public domain. The oh no was rude. Oh. Okay, I apologise, Rachel. Please enlighten me with your opinion on weighing scales. How do you put something in a sealed container? Well, it has a door. It's not sealed. It's not, completely sealed. The front of it or opens up, or this bit lifts off. Then you put your thing on it, and then you put the lid. Let's call it the lid, the cover on, and then you can accurately weigh it without air or whatever blowing on it. It's not about protecting the measuring thing from like particulates in the air. It's more about keeping the weighing apparatus more stable, so they're not affected by wind and whatnot. If you're somehow doing weighing on weighing scales in a really dusty, that's so filled with, I don't know, ash and smog, that you're trying to put things on a weighing scale and it's all falling down around you, you need to work in a different lab. Why is there wind in the lab? Well, I don't necessarily mean wind. I just mean like the breeze of someone walking by, or someone could be doing something further down the table where the weighing scales are, and that will cause some some vibration, and that will be obviously affect the weight of your sample, because it'll be shaking the thing. This more accurate weighing scale just tries to mitigate some of those things, so you can get the most accurate measurement possible when weighing very, very small weights, small amounts. Other things that are kind of okay. Well, this here looks like a pipette that you use with your mouth, which no one ever uses anymore. I could be mistaken and it's not that, but that is what it looks like. That's going in. No one uses those anymore. They've been superseded by these guys, and we know how much I love a pipette. And of course, there are electric pipettes as well. Why on earth you would want to put your mouth on the end of something that you're going to suck up, and then like sort of blow out into a different bottle is beyond me. Not very sterile for a start, and also there's the risk of you sucking up into your mouth whatever it is you might be trying to measure. Not good. If it's a mouth pipette, it won't smash. Bet if you tried hard enough, anything can smash. Hit it with a hammer. They used to be made of glass, so if it's made of glass, it would definitely smash. Yeah, that's what I say. This is a Pasteur pipette. They're the ones I think probably most people will have used in their daily life at some point. It's a sort of one where you squeeze the top and you can drip it out or whatever. And I think that is mostly useless, but sometimes necessary. If you're trying to accurately measure something, use a pipette like this, or an electric pipette, or a multi-channel, or even a stripette with a pipette buoy on the end. I think it's more for the dripping aspect that you would use a Pasteur pipette, maybe. At least in my work, I don't think I'd measure something with one of these. What else have we got? Some tweezers. I don't use tweezers very often. I think I tend to use tweezers when doing my favourite thing of microscopy. You can buy glass slides that have like chambers on, so you don't need to do this, but for sake of money, a lot of labs, including all the labs I've ever been in, you put glass cover slips into side welds of 24 well plate or whatever plate you're working in. So you've got to take the glass cover slips out, and that's a very fragile thing to do. So you have to use tweezers for that, which I think definitely falls into the category of sucks but is necessary. I need to take the cover slips out, so it's necessary, but doing so really sucks. It takes ages, and the thin bit of glass is likely to crack or break, and then your sample is damaged in some capacity, and that sucks. That really sucks. This looks like, from the small picture, a spectrophotometer, I think, judging by the picture, which I think is fine. Actually, you know what? No, a spectrophotometer is neat. You use light to measure how much of something is, how dense something is, but not in terms of, I use it a lot to quantify number of bacteria. So if you grow your bacteria, the culture starts off clear, not clear because it's gold, translucent. Yeah, translucent is the one where the thing is not clear, right? That's transparent. Whatever. You can see through it, but then as the bacteria grow, it becomes cloudy, and the spectrophotometer will measure the cloudiness and give you a number, an optical density value, and you can use that optical density value to calculate the number of salmonella or whatever bacteria you might want to work on inside your growth media, and then you can, do more maths to calculate how much of that media you need to get the right amount of bits and bobs for your infection assay, because cells will behave differently if you put different amounts of bacteria on. Put too much bacteria on, cells will probably die. Put too little bacteria on, and you are likely to get a very different response. And you need to be very careful when you're trying to measure certain things. You need to control all the variables you can, and the amount of bacteria you put in your experiment is one variable that you can control. and you will use a spectrophotometer for that. Or colour change reactions. I'm sure we all did a colour change reaction when we were at school, and all used a spectrophotometer. Maybe not one that looks like that, maybe one that was very small, and you put the little cuvette in the front of it, you press the button, it lights up, and it tells you a number. This spectrophotometer looks like it's got an incubator chamber attached to it, so you might be able to heat it up and grow your bacteria inside it, which would be cool. We have one of those at the University of St Andrews. We're getting towards the end here. I'm going to do this one next because I actually don't know what it is. So I'm going to put it here in the mostly useless but sometimes necessary category, because it's clearly useless to me because I don't know what it is at all. So I don't want to say that it sucks, but I'm sure it is sometimes necessary to whoever knows what that is and uses it on a regular basis. At first glance, I thought it was one of those cell electroporator things like the Biorad gene pulsar, because that kind of is a stacked thing. But then it's got these beakers on the top, and a gene pulsar doesn't have one of those. It's also not that big. So yeah, I don't know what that is, but I'm sure to someone it is sometimes necessary, and therefore it can go in that category there. That's a 96 well plate. Not my favourite sort of plate. If this was a picture of a 24 well plate, I would, it's a printer. If that is what your printer looks like, you're clearly printing more fanciful things than I. Where does the paper go in there? Unless it's like a big office style printer and the paper goes in like this bit. But I don't think a printer is going to be on a tier list called lab equipment. We don't have a printer in our lab. We have a printer in the office. We have one of those like label printers, but that definitely doesn't look like that. So it's not that sort of printer. This is a 96 well plate. It's whatever. It's not my favourite sort of... I'm asking the wrong... Or what's the right question? Tell me, Rachel. What is the right question? This is a 96 well plate, as I say. Not my favourite. I'll have a 24 well plate. It's good for microscopy. 24 well plate, because you can fit the cover slips right in it. But this is good for lots of things. Smaller samples, if you're doing RT-qPCR. If you have to ask, you'll never know. Oh. But I like knowing things. This goes hand in hand with a multi-channel. The distance between the multi-channel channels is the same as the distance between the wells in a 96 well plate. So if you're doing a serial dilution, you have your most concentrated sample here at one end, and then your thing you're going to dilute your sample in going through here. Then you can just take this and put it in there, and then in there, and then in there, and then in there. So then you have the most dilute sample as you go down the list. Or it's good for ELISAs, which is like, Rachel, you know what an ELISA is. Do you still have that ELISA diagram that I drew for you? This is what you do an ELISA in. You coat these wells with the antibody, and then you add your samples to that. So now you can imagine doing an ELISA with this as well. You take this multi-channel, you load all your samples in here and then you take this and you add your reagents to it, and you go boop 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 boop, and then ELISA. Well, I'm glad you still have my ELISA drawing. That must have been over a year ago now. 2 years ago? I don't know. When did I draw that? You've really kept that in excellent condition, especially because it was in chalk. Surprised it hasn't blown off. But it also tells me you don't use that blackboard very often, if the ELISA diagram is still on it. We're coming up to the final stretch now. This was the last one. That was 2 moves ago. Was it? Have you moved house? Do you not live in... I'm pretty sure that was in the flat that I thought you lived in now. But maybe I'm wrong, because I thought you were building a bed or something. Or you just moved in? God, I can't remember. Almost. Yes, I did. But luckily no one watches these streams other than people I know, so it's fine. It's not fine, obviously, it's in the public domain, and I would never do that. Have you moved house, though? Since the one which I thought I'd drew that diagram in, which I realise is very vague and how you would tell me that. I thought it was where you live now, but maybe I am wrong. We can talk off the stream, where we can be more, direct about our conversation about where you live. This is a test tube. It's a glassware. It goes in whatever. I use test tubes a lot. Grow bacteria in them. If you're a chemist, I imagine you're much more into test tubes. You probably do that thing that you see in like stereotypical science promo pictures where you hold it up and you're like, yes, science. Now we're coming in. These are the ones that I have added. This is a incubator. I use cells, obviously, grow at temperatures, and I'm going to keep up this nuance and see if we can figure it out. Brilliant. Well, I am pretty sure that I drew the ELIZA diagram in the flat you live in now because I was helping you move something, I think, from one place to the next. And I think you made me spaghetti or something. I'd come for dinner at the very least. Maybe. Yeah, it was definitely... I say definitely. Yes, the skip run. That's where we were going. We were going to the skip. And then we went to the local council skip place. Although I've already said NHS Grampian, so we know you live in the Grampian area at the very least. So the local refuse centre nearest to the ARI and NHS Grampian, we went there, and then afterwards I drew an ELIZA diagram because I found that you had a whiteboard. There we go. We got there in the end, and we did it with vagueness. Well done. I think that was a team effort. Team effort. Good job, Rachel. Good job. So what we got here? Incubator. Incubators are neat. It's like a heat box. You know, we've got incubators like this for doing cell culture work. Set them to 37 degrees. You can attach a CO2 tank to it to make it as close to atmospheric conditions as you possibly can, and as close to physiological conditions. But also, you don't have incubators like this. You have incubators that you put babies in, right, when they're born premature to keep them warm, or incubators that people that probably have lizards or something have, although they probably have heat lamps. Regardless, incubators are neat and very useful. Quite a pain to clean though, I will say that. This is an example of an RT-qPCR machine. This looks like a Thermo Fisher one by the looks of it because it's in the same shape as an Eyebright. It's an RT-qPCR machine. I like RT-qPCR. Another valuable use of a 96 well plate is RT-qPCR. I also think they're pretty neat as well. They can use those to measure changes in gene expression, and they're very often very easy to use, which I like. And then last but not least, we have this, which I want to put in the smash it to pieces category without even any thought. This is a Western Blot gel tank. If you've ever done a Western Blot, if you're watching this at some point in the future, if you've made it this far if you've made it 1 hour and 43 minutes into this stream, you've made it past trying to figure out how OBS works. You've listened to my tinny audio for 1 hour and 43 minutes. You've listened to NHS Grampian chat. You've listened to me talk about having cancer. You've listened to me go on about how much I love microscopy. The reward you get is knowing that Western blots are the worst type of experiment a cell biologist or someone that works with proteins in any way could ever do. No one. I've never met a single person that likes doing Western blots. You go on student science. Oh, the tinny is gone. Oh, well, I didn't do anything. So maybe it is this connector thing, because I've got my microphone, which is a USB microphone, plugged into an adapter, so I can plug that into my MacBook, which doesn't have the USB port in it, because why not? Why would that be good, wouldn't it? Wait, well, it doesn't have an old style USB port if you're catching what I'm putting down, or whatever people say nowadays. Western blots, terrible. They take ages. They are prone to error. You look at it the wrong way and the gel runs wrong, or it leaks, or it all runs at a stupid angle. You have to get your antibody concentration right, and it looks terrible. They say they take 3 days, maybe 2 days if you're lucky. God, I hate Western blots. Had to do a lot of. Well, it's basically one of the reasons why I did that protein assay as microscopy, even though I did have to then go back and do it as a Western blot later for a paper, which is a preprint now. You can find that. I think I mentioned it in one of my videos. If you search Underwood P62 or something, you're likely to find it if you want to know what I did during my PhD. And I'm just doing my corrections now. You can look at the reviewers' comments. I think it's likely that paper will be accepted. So that'll be my first author paper, which I'm very pleased about, because my PhD was very difficult and had lots of troubles. So I'm glad that science I did is finally getting out there, and I'm now doing more work on said science. Maybe one day, if that project goes well, that's a topic for a future live stream. Anyway, that's a Western blot tank. Western blots suck. I hate Western blots, and you should too. And thank you for the little confetti thing, which I think I saw, Rachel. So that's it. We have ranked some lab equipment. Not all lab equipment. If you have lab equipment of your own that you're interested in, you too can go to tiermaker.com and search for lab equipment tier list. Again, I didn't make this tier list. I just modified it to add a Western blot gel tank, a RT qPCR machine, and an incubator, because those are the things I use fairly regularly. I don't know if I was able to take pictures away, because maybe I would have taken this away just to know what it. But then well, who knows? But there it is, whatever that is. Thank you for joining me, whether you're here watching live like Rachel and Iris, or whether you're watching this later. Again, I appreciate it. I know that watching a science YouTube live stream on a Friday night is probably not one's often cup of tea, but I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. Go and read my paper if you will. Next time you should rank the stools in the lab. What, like stool sample or the types of stool that one sits on, or maybe both. Maybe that's the part of the live stream, eh? Well, I hope you can. If you have not watched my most recent video, please watch it, because it's got very few views, and I actually worked really hard on that one for once. It was a Halloween themed video that came out after Halloween, because I got waylaid by science during hours. It's on Hellraiser and some of the science of death, which is really cheerful. But please go watch it if you like the Hellraiser movies, or are interested in what happens when you die, or both. If you're interested in both, well, it's the perfect video for you, because that's what it's about, both things. I'm really interested in the Hellraiser franchise at the moment. As I say in that video, I often watch a franchise per Halloween. There are so many Hellraiser films that I did not have, and I've been quite a busy October. I haven't finished them all off, but hopefully by the end of the year, all 11 Hellraiser films will have been consumed by me. From what I see online, maybe that's for better or for worse, but for some of them seem pretty good. So ones I've seen so far, at least. I'm on the fourth one now, but maybe this is where they all start to go downhill, as the fourth one was the last one to be shown in cinemas. We're getting off track. Thank you for joining me for Ranking Lab Equipment. Tune in next time for more science after hours, whether that be back to the Pokemon live streams, another science-based live stream. Keep an eye out on the YouTube channel for other science-based lectures about your favourite or not favourite pop culture phenomenons, and you can go to the Instagram page for the channel, which I think is Science After Hours, but I don't know if that's what it's called, but I think it is. So look for Science After Hours on Instagram. You'll know it's the right channel because there'll be pictures related to the channel. So go there, go and in fact the link to it is in the description of all my videos. So yeah, check out the Instagram page, check out my YouTube videos. Have a good Friday evening if you're watching this on Friday, but have a good day, life, wherever you are. Thank you for watching and I appreciate your time. Bye bye.